Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. 26 degrees right here in the nation's capital with a visibility of about 14 kilometers, so not so bad. Welcome again. I am Kayla Magwa.
Well, the year is fast coming up, isn't it? A lot of traffic, people still going back home. Today is Friday. It's the third day in the month of January 2025. Welcome to the show. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I mean, it's a very fantastic weather we're having in Abuja. I've been complaining about the weather for almost a week now. And the reason why I keep complaining is because I've not seen a sunny, hot Christmas and New Year like this. Is this climate change issue? Well, whatever it is, we hope the cold comes in soon. I need that Hamatan cold. I'm done with this sunny, sweaty Hamatan. I don't like it very much. Well, but forget about me and things I like. We are moving, Ayo, to Taraba State. Good morning, Taraba. Yes, we've talked about this particular lake before. Ayo, do you remember what we said about this lake?
Yes, my movie scene, my movie set.
Your set.
You know,
yes, talk to us about that movie.
each time I see this lake, I see a cowboy film, right? That's what I see. You forgive me. Warrior Lake and EB in Taraba State. That's all I see, right? It's a very lovely place to be. So we understand it's about 5 kilometers north of EB community, and annually they celebrate a festival where the people come together to fish and to reunite. How we've been able to keep this place the way it is over the years is a miracle to be studied. But trust me, this is a beautiful sight to behold. Every morning you wake up to this, you're gonna have a peaceful day, trust me.
Absolutely. So there we have it, our skyline this morning. Wonyo Lake in EB in Taraba State, celebrated by the EB people. And you're absolutely correct, 5 kilometers north of the EB community. And they say it's the biggest lake, is the largest lake in West Africa, 15 kilometers to the River Benue. And you know what Wonyo means? I think we talked about this before. Wonyo means hideouts for huge and dangerous aquatic animals. So allegedly, crocodiles, snakes, hippopotamus, and many more animals are found in this area. You know, but that festival you talked about is a very old festival and one that should be preserved. 90 years we've been doing the Wonyo fishing festival. And moved all the way to 1816. You know, you can actually trace it back to the man who founded EB Community. His name is Buba Warbo, you know, and it's a fantastic one I think we should really play up. The Ministry of Arts and Culture, see how much work we're doing for you? we bring up all these legendary parts of this country and you know, festivals and historical accounts. I think these are things that we should play up as we go into 2025.
It's also
like the president said, the time for lamenting is over. Let's see what we can do with what we have.
It's also a good place for boat racing, don't you think?
Oh yes, they do a lot of boat racing here. Boat racing is one of the activities of that fishing festival that happens every year. In fact, there's a very interesting type of race, Ayo, calabash race. You lie on the fishing, you lie on top of the calabash.
Oh,
right?
really?
And then you put the net into the water. Yeah, they said we should come. Are you joining me? Two of us.
I'll come.
We'll take one calabash.
I'll go there via Zoom.
Okay, but the Taraba State government has asked us to come for the festival, and then we can, you know, climb the calabash each. Yeah. You know, and fish and roast our fish after.
Send me the Zoom link. I'll join you. Well,
good morning, Taraba. That's our skyline, the Wonyo Lake in EB local government area of Taraba State. Lovely sight and a lovely morning to all of you out there. Well, it's time for us to take a look at what the papers are saying this morning. Let's go.
Let's begin a look at the papers this morning.
3rd of January 2025. From the front page of the Guardian newspaper. 2025, Nigerians long for rewards of economic reforms. It's the big story on pages 4 and 5 of the paper this morning. Switch to the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Food crisis. 5 months after, FG yet to implement duty waiver. The details of that story continue on the inside pages of the paper. Look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. FG's deficit spending rises 28% to 12.1 trillion naira, defies 54% increase in revenue to Federation accounts, overshoots 2024 target by 31%. What all of that means, you will find details of on the inside pages of the paper this morning. The Nigerian News Direct, 2027, Peter Obi denies merger deal with Atiku Kwankwaso, says no agreement yet. Criticizes FG's handling of corruption, economy, warns against political deceit as 2027 election talks heat up. The details of that story you will find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. That same story you will find an angle of on the front page of the Daily Independent. Peter Obi, APC trade words over Nigeria's worsening situation. Obi asks Tinubu to cut foreign travels, be selfless leader. Says out of 580 days in office, President spent 180 abroad. National debt rises from 15 trillion naira in 2015 to 100 trillion naira in 2024. Urges Tinubu to travel across country to feel citizens' pulse. Visit federal hospitals for checkup to assess health facilities. Nigerians should be confident of better days ahead. That's coming from APC. The details of that story on the inside pages of the paper. Front page of New Telegraph newspaper has this. Sources, how DSS covert operations ensured peaceful celebrations in Southeast, others. You find details on the inside pages. Niger bandits, ESN members taken out. Arms, ammunition destroyed during clearance operations. Take Bello Turji's threats seriously, as coming from Bafarawa to the FG. Details on the inside pages of the paper. Look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. NNPCL invites Obasanjo on a tour as he raises issues over refineries. Stories on page 2. Corporation insists full-scale overhaul of refineries done to meet world-class standard. Says company now profit-oriented global energy leader. Denies cutting crude supply to Dangote refinery. Ex-president says NNPC squandered $2 billion on refineries, restates why Shell refused to run them. That same story is on the front page of Blueprint newspaper. NNPCL tackles Obasanjo over operational status of Port Harcourt refinery, invites ex-leader on verification tour. Dangote's $750 million offer to manage refineries rejected. That's coming from the ex-president. Details continue on the inside pages. The Daily Times newspaper. FCT minister urges pilgrims to foster spiritual growth, national unity. Details on page 2 of the paper this morning. Look at the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. Niger rep allegations. You should apologize to Nigeria. Northern groups slam Nigerian government over alleged destabilization plot, described statement as unguarded, irresponsible. Details on page 4 of this Nigeria newspaper today. And look at the front page of Business Day newspaper. Nollywood's 12-month haul paves way for 2025 success. The details of that story continues on the inside pages of the paper. And these are the papers we have for you today.
Quite interesting, the headlines from the papers this morning. I'm just going to say that former President Olusegun Obasanjo should take that offer. Take that offer from the NNPC. Do that verification tour, get somebody else with a secret phone, film it, send it to us, Mr. Former President, you can actually get this done. I think that's an offer that he should take up. But we're going to kick off our conversation today with the local councils in Edo State. We need an understanding of what's really going on from one local government to the other. We keep hearing about these council issues, people being impeached here and there. But we're going to get some perspective right now. The local chairmanship crisis in Edo State, and joining us via Zoom is Honorable Chris Nehikare. I hope I got that correctly. He is the former Commissioner of Communication and the current Publicity Secretary of the Edo PDP Caretaker Committee. He joined us via Zoom. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What's really going on? Just give us a background as to what's happening in these local councils. We thought everything was fine, and then all of a sudden, it felt like a volcano erupted, and then we keep hearing about people being impeached here and there. Everybody's releasing a statement here and there. What's really going on?
Well, first and foremost, as an Edo citizen, we're all very embarrassed with what we've been saddled with the INEC elections we had last time. What's going on right now, it's like some buccaneers so desperate to have access to the council funds have decided to turn the law on its head. They are attacking, beating up, kidnapping councillors and all sorts of manner of things, and seizing, just taking over, well, believe me, they're taking over councils.
Can you hear me?
It, you know, so I don't know how to describe it right now. Edo right now is in a mess. The people are scared to go out because you see non-state actors being sponsored by the state government carrying all sorts of weapons, koboko, all sorts of things, going around from council to council, threatening people and beating up people because they want to take over councils. And it's so clear that what they are doing is illegal. The Supreme Court is clear on the judgment. Even the state chief judge reaffirmed the Supreme Court judgment. And then another judge, Justice Ubome, also passed a mandatory injunction stopping what they call their suspension. But this government is relentless, and it's an embarrassment. All Edo people from all walks of life are so embarrassed that this is all we saddled with.
So I want to be able to understand what you're trying to say to us right now. Are you saying that it is the newly elected government that is behind all these situations, and these council chairmen, are they all from the opposition? Just give us that sense of where you think the threat is coming from.
The government is not hiding itself or shielding itself. It is obvious. They are frontal about it. First and foremost, they wrote a letter to the House of Assembly asking the House of Assembly to dissolve the councils. The House of Assembly, cowed by the state government, now converted this resolution to suspension. As soon as they realized that they don't even have the power for the suspension, they dissolved the state independent electoral commission. Mm-hmm. They now set up a committee. They call the committee to probe council chairmen and all that. And then when they discovered that all these things were against the law, they now send people, thugs, to different local governments, harassing and forcing the hands of councillors, you know, to sign impeachment letters on their council chairmen. Even though the procedure and process is there, our council chairman can be changed. They brutalized people. Yes, just yesterday they went into some councils, Oriomo, Uwunde, and Esan West, shooting people, destroying government property. What are they doing? It's tantamount to a coup d'etat, and it's happening in multiple places in 18 local governments at the same time. And unfortunately, we have security, like the police is complicit in this. They're the ones that give them the backing to be able to go around beating up people and threatening all sorts of manner of things. So it's just an embarrassment. The law is so clear. This is so crazy. And I think Nigerians should actually talk about it because the Supreme Court is clear. The Attorney General of the Federation was very clear when he made a remark on this a few weeks ago. But these people are relenting. They do it at all costs because they're so desperate. They're so desperate, and we are afraid of what's going to happen next, especially when we've been reigning in our people. Don't worry, don't react. We follow the law. But how much can we hold these people back? If they fight back, there will be chaos, there will be mayhem in 18 local governments. And we don't want that because we left a peaceful Edo to our successor. But now he has rubbished everything. You know,
one thing that's
so
a little
I don't know. We don't know where we are going, and I think the whole world needs to hear this.
Well, if you can hear me, sir, one of the things all confusing is that on the one hand, the governor made that announcement of 50 million naira deficit or something and asked for the financial records of local government administrations, followed by a declaration of the House of Assembly in Edo State about the same issue. In fact, I think that was where they allegedly suspended local government chairman. And the Attorney General of the Federation came out to make a declaration and say, this is unexpected. So where do you see this all panning into? Where do you see this all going? What is the intention, in your own opinion, and what should the people, who should be asking the questions now? Who should be curtailing what? Now we hear that Edo State local government chairmen have been suspended. And of course, naturally, those ones are holding on to the Supreme Court judgment, as you say. So what next, in your opinion?
First and foremost, the state government asked the local government to provide their financials to submit to him. And what the chairman did was to ask that, oh, please put it in writing. You don't verbally tell government officials or another tier of government to submit to you their financials. They said, okay, put it in writing. Of course, they refused to put it in writing because they know it was illegal. They know it was none of their business. And then they call that a subordination. So it's on. We don't know where it's going to, but we know that their end game is to take control of the treasury of the 18 local governments and do with it whatever they wish. And just before these suspensions and all these financial, what they were asking for financially, they had written, the local government ministry had written the 18 local government chairmen not to expend over 840 million that was due to them for security and environmental issues, because the state government wanted the pie, wanted that pie. And not only that, the allocations that have come in since November, they've refused to release to most of these local governments. The state government has been holding on to them. And this is in spite of court judgments from the Supreme Court to the State High Court, and even pronouncement by the Attorney General of the Federation. These are the things that making people wonder, what is this desperation all about? At the state government level, the state government is actually very, very rich. You know, very, very rich, because before our government left, we left over 30 billion in cash for them. And a few days after they came in, the FAC also came in. So they have a lot of money at their disposal. But that's not enough, because they are paying off electoral debt. You know, and so all the godfathers, their mouths are wide open to gulp up what is not constitutionally theirs. They have been frustrating the council chairman and now making mouth-watering offers to councillors to impeach, to the extent they now even impeach council chairman with one councillor out of 12. It's a disgrace. And Nigerians have to speak up. We are speaking up because when the government has the backing of the police, who is complicit in all this, when the police cannot be used to enforce court judgments, then we are leading up to an anarchy. And as a political party, we keep preaching peace, because this is our state, and we do not want anything to happen in terms of destruction and complete breakdown of law and order. But when the state government is leading the breakdown of law and order, then there's a danger.
Now, if we're making a call, do you see a responsibility for the Attorney General of the Federation? Because in the wake of that announcement by the governor, the Attorney General spoke up and said it is not something a governor can do anymore. Going by the declaration of the Supreme Court, a governor doesn't have any authority over the administration of local government administrations, over local government chairmen in particular. So in the wake of that announcement, or rather reiteration by the Attorney General of the Federation, what do you suggest we do next? Do you see a role for the Attorney General of the Federation or the federal government in the impasse that we seem to be experiencing in Edo State at this moment?
Well, we see the government players in this state, their supporters, their officials, and members they put up in their committee, they have told those state people that they do not recognize the authority of the Attorney General of the Federation. They've written out articles condemning the Attorney General and telling the Attorney General to mind his business, that they don't recognize his authority, that the authority they recognize is the authority of the governor, and that the governor, just like the president promised them he will get Edo State back to them, the governor has promised them he's going to collect the 18 local government. And that's again, that's all they're interested in. Now to get it by force, the same way they call the state by force, through illegality. So we don't know what to do right now. The Attorney General has done his bit. The Supreme Court has done its bit. And the next line of action now is for them to be charged for contempt. Every single one, from the Attorney General of the state, who is advising the governor and driving this narrative, should be charged for contempt and be locked up in prison. And all members of the committee that are going from local government to local government with horsewhips and arms, threatening workers, driving away council chairmen and their supporters, and then those civil servants in the local government, the heads of service and all that, that are going illegally, changing signatories and mandates of council accounts to give access to non-state actors, to give access to those that are not supposed to have access. Most of the councils now have their account mandates change, and the monies and their account being controlled by people that were not elected. And so Nigerians have to speak up. We are speaking up, but we are also very guided, because what we have now is a tyranny in Edo State, a dictator threatening all manner of people, not just local government chairmen, but all ex-officials of the last government, party members. Not quite long ago, they broke into the PDP secretariat, destroyed properties worth millions of naira. So this government, we don't know where it's leading the state to, but we are restrained as law-abiding citizens.
Apologies really for what's going on in that state, but of course a lot of accusations being made by you, also by the council chairman who have been removed, accusing the governor of being behind this. In fact, yesterday's incident, they said the policemen came directly from the state house in Edo State. But of course we would have to hear the point of view of the state government. Are they claiming that they actually did these things? Is it out in the open, like you said? But we do have to wrap it up there with you, Honorable. Thank you so much for being with us, and please stay safe, and our prayers are with you and all the people of Edo State.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now we're switching gears now, still talking about security, but this time not in Edo State, across the country. How did we fare when it came to security matters in 2024? Please watch this.
Is a mixture of the good, the bad, and the ugly in Nigeria's security sector. In the first 4 months of the year, 93 conflict incidents were recorded across 25 states. The SBM Intelligence, an Africa-focused market security intel gathering consulting firm, also reported that Nigerians paid over 1 billion naira as ransom to kidnappers between July 2023 and June 2024. It also added that in the space of 1 year, at least over 7,500 Nigerians were abducted in 1,130 incidents across Nigeria, with bandits demanding almost 11 billion naira for ransoms. Of the 1,130 kidnap cases reported, Zamfara leads in the number of incidents. Kaduna recorded 113 incidents with 1,113 persons kidnapped, while Katsina recorded 119 incidents.
When the federal government removed subsidy on petroleum and when it floated the naira, the entire economy was affected. And that means more people lost their jobs, the unemployment rate increased, the poverty level also increased. Now that predisposed more people to crime.
The Nigerian army also suffered tragedy. On March 14th, 17 soldiers were killed in Okoma community in Ogeli South local government area of Delta State. According to the defense headquarters, they were killed during an operation against illegal oil bunkering in the area. They were later buried on March 27, 2024, according to military tradition. 8 persons were declared wanted in connection to the killings, and 5 persons have been arrested, including 3 community leaders. So far, not much have been heard about the incident. Across different fronts, security agencies battled armed non-state actors to defend the country's territorial integrity and maintain internal peace and order. While the Northeast witnessed a relative peace, the emergence of a new terrorist group, the Lakurawa, unleashed mayhem on citizens in the Northwest region. The group claimed responsibility for explosions that rocked 2 villages in the first week of December in Dansadao district, Maru local government area of Zamfara state, that left at least 12 people dead.
From my own perspective, failure of governance, failure of intelligence. It's only in a country like this that you can hear that such magnitude of insecurity body is somewhere operating within the 4 walls of your country and nobody's reporting it for months, for years. It means that the security in that general aspect failed completely.
However, a military airstrike on Christmas Day left many of the insurgents killed. President Bola Tinubu has continued to assure of his administration's commitment to tackling insecurity. The president recently approved a new terms and conditions for the armed forces men and officers.
It will translate to more efficiency, more services, more welfare to the officers.
The chief of defense staff also promised the defeat of the Lakurawa group.
Lakurawas are on the run. They're on the run. We're after them and we're pursuing them all over.
Meanwhile, the year 2024 is one the Nigerian army cannot forget in a hurry, following the death of the first chief of army staff to be appointed by President Bola Tinubu, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja. Both the president and vice president Kashim Shettima attended the burial of the former army chief at a military cemetery in Abuja. President Tinubu described late Lieutenant General Lagbaja as a trusted advisor whose formidable intellect and breadth of knowledge served the nation well. But as the business of security must continue, the president appointed a new chief of army staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who has since assumed office. As the year 2024 rounds off and 2025 begins, experts say the challenges of insecurity require more investments in both security hardware and manpower.
I'm hoping that the National Assembly will strengthen its capacity for oversight in the security sector in 2025. We are in a democracy, and the checks and balances that democracies allow is embedded within the legislative arm.
However, it does appear that President Bola Tinubu has heed this caution as he projects to spend more money on security in his 2025 budget.
We have significantly increased the funding for the military, paramilitary, and police forces to secure the nation, protect our borders, and consolidate government control over every inch of our national territory.
If the president's words of assurance are anything to hold on to, Nigeria may witness improved security in the coming year and beyond, which could also impact food security and attract more foreign investments into the country. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Thank you, Emperor, for that reporting and joining us to expand on those conversations about security in Nigeria in 2024, and also looking at what lessons have been learned from a lot of the things that happen. What are we changing? What are we doing differently? What should we do differently in 2025? We have in the studio Colonel Yomi Dare, retired, former Director of Nigerian Army Legal Services. Thank you so much for being with us on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you for having me.
And joining us online via Zoom, we have Oyemen Ohidiave. I hope I got it correctly. Forgive me if I didn't. The CEO of August I Group is a security consultant to join us from Texas. Good morning.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure.
Let's start off. Let me start off with you, Mr. Oyemen. Listening to that report, you know, it did bring frowns on a lot of faces, even here in the studio. And that's because, you know, we remember these things as they happened last year. What didn't we get right? What was the loophole that caused a lot of these situations to escalate in 2024?
I hope my audio is perfect. Now, the issues that we face in Nigeria is that we just keep going round in circles. When I say we're going round in circles, is that there's no sustainability on any of the wonderful ideas that we have initiated and put in place. Now, when we have a new chief of army staff, new service chiefs come on board, we start all over again. When we have a new Inspector General of Police, we start all over again. The Police Service Commission just permitted out Mr. Arase and brought in another person. We start all over again. Even the Oga that is in the studio there, my boss, Colonel, he has come to the studio so many times. So who is harvesting information from the media, from interviews of professionals and expert guests? So we go round and round and round in circles, and we keep making the same mistakes. That is the annoying part of it.
He did mention that issue, Colonel Yomi, the sustainability of the conversations, because you've been here so many times. I see our security consultants in this country on Al Jazeera, on CNN, on BBC. I see them talking, giving all kinds of security advice, and we do that as well for our country. But he says the sustainability, it feels like we keep going around in circles, saying the same things over and over again. Is that what you find that we're doing?
Amen has spoken well. Once again, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I want to believe that it's going to be a better year, you know, to 2025. Now, looking back, in my opinion, I think the dynamics have changed. The dynamics have changed. You see, we see a situation whereby there has been some improvement. You know, the military has upped its games, you know, and so also other security agencies. They have upped their game. And I want to believe that it's not going to be business as usual. Right now, there are efforts. For example, you can feel the military presence, you know, and other security agencies, especially on our highways. I particularly, you know, about a week ago, I noticed, you know, armed military patrols.
If the military and other security agencies have upped their game,
yes,
how did we get a new terrorist group in 2024? How are we unable to do anything in Zamfara? Just recently we saw, actually initially when they lifted the mining ban in Zamfara, so, you know, we heard even the head of the miners there was very excited. Oh, we're going to continue, our mining is going to be fine. Then all of a sudden, a few days after, we're now hearing that, oh, wait, the bandits they've become a little bit more stubborn. They're sending us threatening letters. We do see that the military is doing what it can, not just the military, even the police. They're doing what they can in various theaters of war across the country. But we're not seeing a reduction. We're seeing that they're doing more. But it does feel like the threat is getting more as well. So it's that dynamic that many of us don't quite understand.
Don't forget our population in this country and the land, the land mass of Nigeria. You see, one major problem that we have and that needs to be addressed, and this will continue to communicate, to the government, is the issue of our border, because we have a very porous border. So there's need for us again to look into that sector, both the land, the sea, and then our air borders. So there's need for us, to put in more effort, more attention to this, because we are talking about, the issue of the Zamfara. Where did they come from? In some places, it's just a free movement. You just walk across, and that shouldn't be. So we need to, fortify our borders. So that is what I think will be a game changer in this regard. Otherwise, all the efforts, will be worthless. But I must be very, very honest with you here, because when you really look at it, I take, for example, last Christmas, I had friends who were able to hit the road, say traveling on the Kaduna-Abuja road. In the past, we couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. So this is commendable. So we must, try and commend the whatever little efforts that we have been able to achieve. I'm
going to take it back to Mr. Omi, and you heard what he said. Is this a porous border issue, or is there more that's not being done?
Thank you very much. I want to go like this. Insecurity is a global challenge. Security is a national necessity. Security means you secure. You are proactive, you see ahead, you use some permutations to take some decisions and effectively impute those decisions. Insecurity means you are reacting to combat a situation that just woke up on you in a bright light. Now, if we want to look at border control, definitely insecurity can emanate within your country without crossing through your border. Now, recently we had a young man in the US here that drove his vehicle, his truck, into a large crowd and had explosives. He's even a US veteran. Now, he was radicalized, so supposedly, investigation is still going on, by the ISIS. Radicalization can take place through the internet, through the Facebook. Young people are being radicalized on terrorism through their phones, especially once they have data. Cells are being grown inside the country, and those cells are recruiting members of the country without bringing from outside the country. And these members of the country that are being recruited are radicalized and taught how to die for certain causes that are against the anti-country. Now, if you want to look at the system of governance, the military is not supposed to be on the road doing any kind of patrol. The military is supposed to intervene to sustain the efforts of paramilitary organizations or to protect territorial integrity. Now, our border system that we are talking about, people come from the border to enter so many other countries, even America. There are people that go through the ocean, some of them drown in the oceans, some find their way into Europe. Also, those countries also have good border system that we want to copy. But when you get into a country, your ability to abuse the criminal justice system, commit criminal activities, collect taxes from citizens, hoist your flag, and take control of certain part of that country is totally an institutional failure. Institutional failure on the part of criminal justice system, punitive measures to crime, institutional failure on the part of connotative alliances with religion or tribe to quickly cover up criminal activities of certain people, then criminal activities in political aggrandizement. Certain people that want to be godfathers, they cover some criminals to use them. Then if we talk of the Kaduna-Abuja road, I served in Kaduna for 9 years under the 1 Mechanized Infantry Division. Now, Asari Dokubo stood in front of the presidential villa, and he mentioned, and he has still mentioned it like 2 or 3 times, that he is the one having the contract to protect the Kaduna-Abuja road, a civilian, where we have the armed forces in the country. So if you look at all of these things, would you agree with me sincerely that our security institutions are giving us security, or they are fighting against insecurity? Those are 2 different things.
I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to some of the things that he said, but also to bring the other dynamic, and that's something I've heard from the military, from the police, from paramilitary as well. And they say what you're saying. We're doing our best. We've upped our games. We're targeting these people. We're doing our best. But while we do our best, there's the non-kinetic bit of this arrangement that is being ignored. If there's massive poverty in the land, if people are unable to feed, you're basically creating fodder for these terrorist organizations to recruit them. We had stories of terrorist organizations distributing food in some communities, and we hear about communities that protect some of these criminal elements, and it's mostly because of financial gains that they may be getting from these people. So in answering that, could you talk a bit about that dynamic where the military is upping its kinetic bit of the agreement, but the non-kinetic bit is being ignored? We hear from a lot of military people say that aspect needs to be worked on.
Yeah, I quite agree with my brother that we also have internal issues, and which boils down to institutional failure. But again, I think if you look back to the 9 years he served in one division, and what was on the ground then, and you look at what we have right now, I think things have changed. And I do agree, too, that ideally the military are not supposed to be on the highways and all this. But again, when push comes to push, the military, apart from protecting the borders, the sovereignty of the country, they are also available to assist, in internal security. So it's still part of, the beat of the military to do. So that's not out of place, Yes, I also noted that you see, there's a lot of poverty in the land. There's poverty in the land, which has also aided, this crime. And of course, our various institutions too. Like people committing crime, and then they just get away with a slap on the wrist. These are some of the things that are not acceptable and that we should be looked into. I quite agree, And also, you look at the main issue that we still have, that of corruption, where somebody just, steals money that even his generations yet unborn cannot even spend. And all these monies are supposed to be channeled into development of our infrastructures. I give an example, like the roads, and then what about power, electricity, and then look at the area of graduates that are outside there without employment.
I'm going to have to hand over to my colleague in Lagos. He has a few questions for you. Ayo.
Let me begin, Colonel Larry, by the way. Happy New Year to you as well. Let me begin by asking you if you think we have been able to track the roots of all of these issues.
Well, Ayo, Happy New Year. Talking about tracking the roots of all of this issue, I think is something that is open. We all know that corruption is one of our main concerns, in this country, and we all see it. It's open to all. So I think it's a question that even you can also answer as we speak.
really wish I can answer the question.
It's a common knowledge.
I really wish I can answer that question, Colonel. Because the reason I asked you the question pointedly is because, for instance, over the weekend, we were having a conversation with the CDS, and he was talking about the fact that, look, let the military do the military part and the politics do the politics side. That one of the issues that was also brought to the fore in that conversation is that it is common knowledge that sometimes prominent people in communities also foster some of the insecurity issues that we have. It's the reason that I'm asking that question. Because if we know the reason why some of these compromises happen sometimes, then we will be able to identify, okay, this is the problem and then this is the way to go about it.
Yeah, again, Ayo, let's go straight to it. I mean, look at the situation we have in the country. When we don't have enough policemen, you know, to police the ordinary citizens, and then if anybody can pay the price, you can have, you know, a battalion of policemen armed to the teeth, you know. And whether these people have genuine sense of, source of livelihood or not, nobody cares. But as long as they can pay. So why should we have such a situation? I leave that to you to also answer.
Let me go to our other guest, you know, on Zoom. At the end of the day, it will seem like it's the citizens that are cannon fodder in this matter. And unfortunately, we also put the lives of some of our citizens, the fellow citizens of Nigeria, at risk. How do we navigate this? Because sometimes it's the innocent civilian that has no idea what's happening, sleeps tonight, wakes up the following morning, it's a whole different world they woke up to. So we can't continue like this in 2025, can we?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, I lost some audio when they connected you with Colonel. Okay. Now, when we look at the citizens of Nigeria and the opportunities for our young graduates to be part of the discussion, now, I have told people many times, sir, we have more than 7 universities that approved criminology and security studies for Nigerian students. We have these students that have passed out from the universities that are within employable age. Now, I expect the Inspector General of Police to do a sincere recruitment of tangible Nigerians that are ready to change the narrative of our policing. Go to these universities, send SMS to these students, and make them come back to the university premises and do the initial screening there by first identifying that they are really students of that same university. Then you begin to up the game on the welfare of the police, and you will see enough people. You need military for territorial integrity and occasional backup, but the police need to be enhanced. We also need to change the curriculum of the police. What they are using now is outdated. Most of the police officers that are my friends, they join us to do normal courses outside the police training scheme, you know, and the Ministry of Police Affairs, I think they have called me once or twice to follow them nationwide to talk to police officers. And I think that we have a lot of young people in Nigeria that are ready to change the narrative of policing, young patriotic Nigerians that are graduates, that are ready to wear that uniform, get a good payment, and change the story and discuss with the problem and the issues in Nigeria.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it would seem like even now the question of intelligence gathering is also an issue. I asked about the citizens because if security agencies are going to make a headway, any headway whatsoever, the citizens have to be involved. And the second link to that is that all security, or a lack of it, is local. So what is the role for citizens in helping the security agencies to gather intelligence. We are told that DSS officials are all over the place in every local government in the country, yet some of these issues would seem to have crept up on us. So what would be your solution to how citizens can be a part of the process?
I'm very, very grateful for this question. The only fear that I have now is that we'll only be talking into nothingness. There is nobody in responsible position that will be with pen and paper now to help this country. Now, let me tell you about citizens. Let's start from the simple ones. We have the PCROC, the Police-Citizen Relations. If you go to every police command, you will see civilians that are giving approval to form organizations called PCROC or something like that. I think it's Police Community Relations something. They have many people joining: mechanics, carpenters, doctors, lawyers, teachers. They are all members of that police and civilian community. Now, do you know what you can do with that? I have spoken to them more than 3-4 times, even in Lagos, you know, and we discovered that with their penetration, you could be able to gain trust. Because if I don't trust the police, I can trust the Oga near my house. I can trust the other Oga in my office who are members of that community and approach them with tangible action lines. Now, we also have retired police officers, DSS officers who have withdrawn back into the community. They have associations. We have military veterans who have been in active combat and should not be afraid to see a risky situation, go into it to support community relations with agencies. The police, the DSS, they can approach the retired community and they speak the same language and use that to communicate them with the civilians. I am retired now. I mix up with a lot of civilians and they can listen to me and embrace me, and I can be a bridge builder between the community and the agencies. So all of these things that we have now, these are opportunities upon opportunities. Let's look at the media itself. Do you know how many media people we have been able to train after they were killing journalists and all that during political crisis, and when they go for news gathering? We have trained them, and it's another community. Let's look at people like vulcanizers, mechanics. These are people that must repair vehicles or motorcycles for the criminals, you know, and they have intelligence and information. Look at hoteliers, sir. If we can build relationship with hoteliers, especially those in the outskirts, do you know the kind of information secret cameras, recording devices can harvest? You know, so we have a lot of opportunities. And I want to correct something you said. You said the DSS are everywhere in the local government. I beg them to forgive me, but I will tell you that the DSS are everywhere in the local government offices. If they are on the streets outside, I have not seen the effects of what they are doing.
Well, thank you. Well, Colonel Dari, one of the things that I heard Saidi say right here now is that we need to be a lot more strategic. So speaking from a strategy perspective, he's talking about engaging citizens in strategic areas all across our various local governments, particularly in the hinterlands, hoteliers, vulcanizers, possibly even farmers. How well would you situate? Well, how do you think that can be situated in our security strategy? Add that to the fact that now local government administrations are supposedly more autonomous than before, even though there is an issue going on in Edo State at this time.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Because I was going to, request that I contribute to that question. Like we say, security is everybody's business. It's everybody's business. It's not the exclusive preserve of the security agencies, including the military. Now, the government has a role to also play here. There's need for enlightenment. We need to, to enlighten and propagate these things, on even the media. The media also has a role to play. You have a role to play here. Create a segment where you put out some advertisement where people are educated on how to report. When you see something, you say something, And of course, majorly, poverty is at the root cause of some of those things, because with little, inducement, people are ready to even sell their birthright for a pot of porridge, which is very, very unfortunate. So there's need to enlighten the citizens, to educate the citizens on the need for them, to be more committed, to be more loyal, to the country, because at the end of the day, it's going to be for our own common good. It's going to be for our common good.
I want you to get Mr. Ume to give us an idea of how that can be done, if he's still there. How do we teach citizens to be patriotic when they can't eat?
One of the things we talk about in security is to think about how you safeguard your values. Everybody have what they value, okay? And if you discover what the citizens value, you protect it. One of the things that Nigerians value is respect. When you respect a Nigerian, that means you take care of his wherewithal with the available resources as much as you take care of yourself. Right now, there is an imbalance. The son of a governor that is in the school with my son will not be talking to my son because he's the son of a governor. Why? Because of his opportunity to access the national purse, which is also a purse that I put in my taxes, from the money I also pay my child school fees. So the National Assembly, the Senate, the gamut of the hierarchy and the architecture of agencies and institutions that have access to government funds must be seen to live according to how every citizen lives. We buy food in the same market. We should access the same public schools. We should access the same flights, economy flights. We should also be seen to own the same kind of commensurate assets to the amount of money that we are paid as governors, as senators, as whatever. And this should be cut down to meaningful levels to meet with the economic viability of the country. When you begin to do that, the citizens will begin to trust you.
All right, we have to anchor there, but I want to thank you very much for being with us on the program. It's an ongoing conversation. I think one that we'll have to have again. Thank you so much, Mr. Oemen Ohidiave, security consultant, joining us there from Texas. Thank you very much for being with us on the program.
It's always a pleasure.
And then, of course, Colonel Yomi Dare, retired. I mean, it's a precarious situation, and listening to everything that we've said today almost feels like we've gone round and come back to the same spot. That's off tangent. That has to happen for us to be able to enjoy a safer country is one that I think the conversation will have to continue. But I want to thank you very much for being with us on the program, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
Colonel Yomi Dare there, former Director of Nigerian Army Legal Services. It's time for Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We'll be back 30 minutes after, and we'll be talking about the National Orientation Agency, so please stay with us.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Business on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm Amy John Mekwa. As usual, we start from the global space, telling you that oil prices extended their gains today, Friday, after closing at their highest in more than 2 months in the previous session, on hopes that governments across the world may increase policy to support and revive economic growth that would lift fuel demand. So we keep our eyes on the numbers, and we see 0.2% in the green for Brent, and it's gone up higher than what it started the year with. Remember, that very first trading day of the in 2025 had not a new high, but a high in a couple of months. 75 is what we started with yesterday. Today we see it's $76.09. After it went up 0.2%. Also, WTI has gone up from $72 to $73, $73.32 a barrel. After it gained 0.3%, and we see that's about 19 cents, 16 and 19 cents. For both contracts are on track for their second weekly increase, with investors back from holidays, improving trade liquidity. Factory activity in Asia, Europe, and the United States ended 2024 on a soft note, as expectations for the new year soared amid growing trade risks from a second Donald Trump presidency and China's fragile economic recovery. Let's look at our Naira for this morning, and we see that for NFM, it's negative 0.36% loss, opened at 1,535 Naira, 82 kobo, closed lower, slightly lower, 0.31% to be precise, lower at 1,541 Naira, 36 kobo. NAFEX closed at 1,548 Naira. I can see lower than that just a bit though, even though there was a gain on that at the close of trade. There was skewed foreign exchange market yesterday was skewed heavily towards the buy side. That's why we saw that, leading to a 5 Naira 50 kobo depreciation at that firm right there. Now, governors have been really busy in the last couple of days signing budgets into law to guide what's going on, what's going to happen this year in the government spending and revenue. So we start with Rivers State, where the Governor Similaye Fubara, signed the 2025 budget into law. 1.1 trillion Naira, that's the value. That's a week after it was submitted to the Okojimbo-led Assembly. We know controversies around that also. Well, this comes as he emphasizes that the only House of Assembly existing is that led by Victor Okojimbo, and the governor declared that Martin Amare and 26 other members who defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives are no longer recognized as legislators, insisting that despite granting them ample time to reconsider their stance, that the decision to disqualify them is final and irreversible.
I want to say this, maybe for some persons somewhere who are still mixing up issues. We have only one assembly, and that assembly is headed by Right Honorable Victor Okojimbo. A group of friends, about 9 months ago or so, 10 months or so, embarked on what they call Simba's journey. Halfway the vessel, while they were coasting, they now realized that they were entering inside the den of devil, sharks. They now retrieved. It is too late. It is too late. And the truth about it, we're not going back. We've given them enough room.
Now, in Jigawa State, Governor Umaru Namadi of the state has signed the proposed 698 billion naira budget into law after deliberations by members of the State House of Assembly. The state spending for 2025 indicates focus on infrastructure, education, and healthcare. The lawmakers convened at the Government House to present the bill for signing. The governor is calling for cooperation to ensure full implementation, stressing the importance of transparency and accountability.
I want to call all of you, everybody, to work assiduously to ensure the execution of this budget. This budget was carefully crafted and is very, very clear. We have a clear objective and we have a clear roadmap. What we have in the budget, we were very clear on our revenue and expenditure.
Similarly, Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano has signed 719 billion naira into law. That's the budget, and that's the highest in the history of the state. The Governor Yusuf assures citizens that the budget will prioritize critical sectors to drive progress and uplift living standards across the state.
After the revision by the Kano State House of Assembly, we now have an aggregated financing in the sum of 719 billion 755 million 417,663 crore naira.
Governors are busy there signing budgets into law. Implementation and impact, of course, is a subject for another day. For now, let's turn our eyes to Nigeria's telecom industry and what has been going on there. I'm sure by now you've gotten a tip of what's going on there, from the request for approval of tariff increase. Stakeholders in the industry are asking for market reflective tariff, to the non-approval from NCC and talks of how this could affect service that you enjoy, your calls, your data, and all of that. Well, let's have that conversation this morning with the Chief Executive Officer of MTN Nigeria, Mr. Carl Toriola. Mr. Toriola, good morning. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Wishing you all the best in 2025.
Wish you the same. But I wonder if you would say that you are optimistic at this point. But I guess let's first of all start from 2024. In the year 2024, there were, of course, we saw hikes in different sectors, from electricity top on the list, petrol, even though we had a reduction towards the end and all of that. And it seemed that like the Telecom sector was left out. And we've had some economists here in our program asking that, so even you, we've seen you in different platforms asking for the survival of telecom. So how would you capture the year 2024 for your industry?
Look, 2024 was a very torrid year for the entire telecoms industry. We're the largest operator, so we were probably able to be a bit more resilient, but it's been very difficult, and very difficult triggered by two primary things. One, the currency devaluation, which happened in a very rapid scale, and two, just inflation in general. What this has done has effectively driven the cost of operation up so significantly, in some instances 2 or 3-fold. And effectively, by the end of the year, we are spending more to keep our networks in operation and running than we are generating in revenue, and that's not sustainable. So 2024, very torrid from a financial results perspective. However, having said that, we believe the federal government, the policymaker, the Honorable Minister, and of course our regulator led by Dr. Aminu Maida, have actually taken a lot of steps to address other issues that will make the industry sustainable. So tough year, lots of challenges, cost running higher than revenue, and sustainable questions, but structural changes that have been executed by the regulators and the policymakers and the government of President Asiwaju Bola Tinubu to support the industry.
Yeah, and the term FX losses was a constant almost all through the year. But towards the end of the year, we did see EFM from the CBN, and some people are optimistic. Would you say you see a more stable stance in the area of FX as we begin 2025?
Yes, I mean, the volatility that we saw in 2024, no one expects that in 2025. Certainly stability, there might be some slight devaluation. But the slight devaluation has been constant over all the years that we've been in operation and since democracy returned to Nigeria. So that's not the issue in itself. The question is the quantum of the devaluation and the volatility and the ability of businesses, corporates to adjust their prices to compensate for that. So 2025, from an FX perspective, yes, we are very optimistic, but it doesn't take away the fact that we're still spending more than we're generating in revenue. So the tariff uplifts are a necessity for sustainability.
So when you say tariff adjustments, what can you expect? We know we've been talking about this even here on Business Morning for quite a bit. And then everybody would tell you we've seen increase in other areas. So why the telecoms? But I know you've been having conversations with the NCC. We've seen that. But even recently, the NCC still came out to say they have not approved any increase. Tell us what's going on, conversations around this tariff adjustment.
So we at MTN, we believe that we need a tariff adjustment of about 100%. I think the industry is pretty much aligned because we're all experiencing exactly the same headwinds. Now, the government is very sensitive to the squeezed consumer wallet, the pressures that has come from inflation and currency devaluation on consumers. So I'm not sure they'll give us the 100%. But I'm optimistic they will give us something substantial, and maybe progressively over the course of the year we can have smaller adjustments that will help us to get back to the place where we need to be. The other reality around tariffs, I think you mentioned it in your introduction. I mean, we've seen every single industry. The airline industry locally in Nigeria has increased tariffs by about 400%. We know that Band A on the public mains power has gone up by 341%. We all know the price of petrol post-devaluation, where it's gone up 4, 5, 6-fold. And the other fact of the matter is actually, if you look at all the studies, studies by Statistica, the GSMA, all the bodies who look into the statistics of the telecoms industry, Nigeria actually has probably the second or third lowest tariffs in the world on data and also on voice. So we think there's a very, very strong case for this.
So you do think that with an increase in tariff, the issue of sustainability or the question of sustainability in the telecoms industry would have been answered?
Yes. I mean, look, like I said, 2024, a lot of the other issues around sustainability of the industry were very successfully addressed by a policymaker, Dr. Bosun Tijani, and our regulator, Dr. Aminu Meda. And some of those are the issue of interconnect debt towards of debt as a whole towards the telecoms industry, whether it's interconnect debt for USSD services, etc. Those were very successfully addressed in 2024. Critical National Infrastructure Bill, that's been a long time in the waiting, probably 8 to 9 years. That has been passed through. There are issues around spectrum allocation. The governance, the supervision of the telecoms industry has been very, very strong. So with the tariff adjustments, yes, the issue of sustainability will be addressed. But what is expected of us by the regulator on the flip side is quality of service. We're going to be held to very high standards of quality of service. And what the tariff adjustments allows us to do is to continue to reinvest, because we need to build capacity, build resilience, put in additional generators, put in alternative power supply systems to give you stable and high quality networks. So it addresses sustainability, but also enables the regulator to hold the big stick on the issue of quality of service and allows us consequently to, of course, invest to give the quality of service that Nigerians deserve.
There was a report out there that if you don't get this increase, there might be disruption of services. So, I mean,
what I've tried to do is paint a realistic picture without being alarmist. The truth is, if you have any organization that's spending 160% of what they earn in revenue, effectively at some point in time, that organization is going to shut down. So we're always going to act responsibly. We use all our resources. We're running on fumes to keep our networks up, and we are keeping our networks up. We are not shutting down any networks by any means at this point in time. And we'll continue to do so because we believe that sooner or later the sustainability should be addressed. But like I said, if you're spending 160% of what you're earning, at some point in time, you cannot continue to operate. So that's a risk that faces us in the future.
The truth is, I don't think any economy can, move to a next level without the telecoms. It's the core of every development. Perhaps that's why the government agency is reluctant to, approve this increase, because perhaps we could lose out some subscribers, especially those in the lower class. And I mean, we all know what has happened to the value of Naira and purchasing power. Is there any way to cater for those who are really down there? Perhaps there may be some packages that, even if there was an increase, could still, give them the minimum of access, even if 100%, for instance, what you're asking for is being approved.
And I think that's a lot of the models that our regulator has been looking at, that how can this be absorbed, particularly at the bottom of the pyramid, in the easiest means possible. So we're looking at that. There's also other initiatives by the government to really accelerate rural coverage and effectively subsidize with government resources rural coverage to ensure that people at the bottom of the pyramid have access to telecommunication services. There's also the initiative by Dr. Bosudi Jani to roll out 90,000 kilometers of fiber. I think that's going to drive broadband penetration. And I'm sure the focus is going to be on the underserved and the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think it's this sensitivity towards the people at the bottom of the pyramid that has really made the regulators and the government really reflect on the best way to come through with this tariff adjustments and what else can they do to support the industry to at least ensure that the tariff adjustment isn't of the quantity that causes them that much pain. And to be honest, we're asking for 100%. I'm not sure we're going to get 100%. But to be honest, that 100% is a lot less than any of the other industries that operate in Nigeria. And, often people look at large corporates and think they want so many price increases. But like I've always said, if you are buying a basket of tomatoes, a bunch of plantain, tubers of yam, the prices have gone up 200%, 300%, 400%. These are locally produced items, so 100% request is not that unreasonable. But look, anything that we get from the federal government, we'll make the best of it and continue our appeal. But you're right, the telecoms industry underpins everything in this economy, almost everything. The banking services ride on us. A lot of transportation reliance. You can imagine all the Ubers and so on and so forth. A lot of the large corporates that provide all sorts of services rise on the telecoms industry. It's become so essential to life that this is an industry that must absolutely be protected at all costs and allowed to prosper. On top of that, the telecoms industry contributes, I'm not sure the latest statistics, but the last I knew of was 14% to the GDP. So if this is allowed to thrive and prosper, it will have multiple spin-off effects on the rest of the economy as well. So
apart from this tariff increase that you're asking for, are there other ways, perhaps, that you think the industry could be helped for sustainability? Because, I mean, we all know the importance of it. If we must grow our digital economy and, even grow the economy at all.
No, absolutely. And there are multiple ways in which the industry must be supported. But I think that's why I said 2024 was a time when we did a lot of the things to support the industry. And those have been explored to the fullest. We're now left with one last thing to do, which is an absolute necessity, and that's tariff increase. And I'll talk through some of the things that's been done. I think I mentioned them earlier. Addressing the industry debt across the industry, towards the industry, is one of them. The Critical National Infrastructure Bill is another. There was an auction of 5G spectrum that happened 2 years ago or so. That gave us additional spectrum for us to provide services and relieve our 4G networks. That's been successful. Our regulator has rearranged spectrum. I don't want to get too technical, but that's something that's very important to allow operators to have contiguous spectrum and allows them to improve their quality of services. The Critical National Infrastructure Bill is a big one that we've been waiting for ages. We've gotten a lot of support from the security agencies because we've had a lot of sabotage, willful damage to our infrastructure, as well as accidental damage. So we've gotten the intervention of various arms of government to prevent that. And yes, I mean, there's been all sorts of initiatives that have supported us. And they've been very, very good, very important for the industry, very exciting for us, the telecoms operators in the industry. But we still do need this tariff increase because, like I said, you cannot be spending 1.6 times what you're earning and survive. So, yes.
Yeah, so you said you have a lot of cooperation from the security agents or agencies. So the threats to your assets, are they over? Or at least minimal?
Yeah, we are addressing the threats to our assets, the root cause of the threats to our assets, the root players in vandalism and theft, and the security agencies are helping to root them out. They're actively engaging, now understanding what the critical aspects and elements of our infrastructure is. If there's any threat, we feel the presence of the security agencies. They are physically on site to protect the critical assets. We have 18,000 base stations across the country. They can't protect everything, but the ones that are most critical and carry the majority of the traffic, they're always present. And of course, they have a lot of intelligence to know what's coming. So they've been very constructive in working with us to prevent any disruptions. And then where there is like willful sabotage and damage, fish out the perpetrators and hold them to task on this.
And talking about security, a lot of, when we started the BVN and NIN and all of that registration, there was a lot of expectation, that at the core of it, we will have technology, telecoms help us. How much cooperation goes on between, the telecoms and the security? I mean, we heard last year, like, kidnapping has become an industry that a lot of people look out to and all of that. How much cooperation goes on in the area of fighting insecurity in the country?
Look, security is always the most sensitive subject under any government, so I'll keep my words somewhat limited. Allow me to say that every SIM card in Nigeria is now associated with a national identity number. And that national identity number also includes the biometrics of the individual. So the history of SIM registration, SIM suspensions, that's over and done with. That enables the security agencies to identify the people who are responsible for whatever they might be investigating. And we provide them with all the support under the laws of the country. So we follow the laws and the regulations of the country to the letter. And within that context, we provide all the support that is required. I don't think, coming from the private sector, I'm in a place to really speak to it much more than that. But we're very cooperative with the state, following the regulations and the laws of the country to provide all the support. But kidnapping didn't start in the last 1-2 years. It's something that's been gradually increasing. And I think, look, over time, as we've moved towards free market policies, and we start to see the positive impact of that, and it's not overnight. I think what will happen is the economic activity will increase in Nigeria, giving people alternatives to generate a living, and that is what ultimately will drive down crime. But let me leave it at that.
All right, so finally now, also I don't think you put you in a tight spot and all of that. The issue of 4G and 5G, sometimes, when Nigerians hear, oh, we now have 5G, and they're like, oh, have we even exhausted the 3G, and then we're going to 4G and 5G? Where are we in that? And really, how many people have access to these new levels, I think it's spectrums and all of that? We're talking of 5G now.
So we're very proud of our 5G achievements. We are in the first world in telecoms in Nigeria. And I think this industry, the telecoms industry, is probably, that's maybe the banking industry, are the two industries that are at par with the global best standards across the world. And our 5G quality is very good. Now, 5G, you don't roll out ubiquitously across the nation at once because you don't actually have that many handsets outside of the major urban areas. We have, I think, 10 times the coverage and capacity of our closest competitor when it comes to 5G. Focused on, first of all, geopolitical zones, second, the state capitals, and focused on where the terminals are present. And the opportunity exists from home broadband solutions on 5G. Now, if you test our 5G network, at the very best instances, you'll get up to 1 gigabits per second speed. You probably get somewhere between 300 megabits per second and 600 megabits per second on average where you have our 5G coverage. And that is the best standards. I think we got the Umlaut, UCLA, and UCLA awards for the fastest 5G network in Africa, if I remember right. Now, how many people have access to it? We provide somewhere around 15% population coverage. That's focused on the commercial centers and where the opportunity exists for home broadband. What does it bring you? It brings you much faster speed, much lower latencies. If you have teenage kids that are gamers, they will know the difference, I promise you, with 5G. And then if you're using it for things like e-health, Internet of Things, etc., you will see the value of 5G, and you get a lot better home broadband connection. And 5G is rolled out almost the same way that the GSM networks were rolled out. We didn't all of a sudden wake up and roll out GSM in 2001 across the country. We started by the commercial centers, the state capitals, and then it started to progress outwards. So you see a progression of our 5G coverage as the traffic increases, as the penetration of 5G handsets increases in the country. You'll see an acceleration of 5G, and it will provide a much better connection. And we are actually very pleased about the performance of our 5G network and the uptake of 5G traffic on our network. We're very optimistic. We've seen really good traction. I won't get into the statistics on that because my competitors will surely be listening in, but we're very satisfied. 4G is not exhausted. 4G still provides very good data quality services. Not as good as 5G, but you get 20 and up to 130, 140 megabits per second on 4G. And we have now plotted in on 90% population coverage on 4G. So that's also really good internet broadband solution as well.
Yeah, but all of this, Mr. Toriola, are you optimistic about 2025?
Yes, I am. I think this tariff issue is going to be resolved. I can't tell you when. I can't tell you exactly how much the government will authorize. Make no mistake, this is our request and our demand. It's taken a while because the government is very sensitive to the plight and looking for every other solution to put in place. But I think it's going to be resolved in the near term. And I think we're not going to see the volatility that we saw in foreign exchange rates. We're back to stability. So I think 2025 is going to be a good year. We in MTN are also on the march to become the undisputable largest fiber to the home operator. I'm very excited about that. Our fintech services are gaining traction, very competitive market in fintech in Nigeria. But we think we have some unique offerings that's going to make us really interesting to the consumer. So yes, I think 2025 is going to be much better than 24. 24 was a reset year. A lot of things we had to fix, and we've done that, and we're going to be flying in 25.
Yeah, we do hope to fly, all of us together, Mr. Toriola. Thank you so much, Mr. Carl Toriola, Chief Executive Officer of MTN Nigeria.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on your program.
You're welcome. So that's it there. The telecoms are also asking for their share. They need to be sustained, to stay alive and keep the operations on. Just before we head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio, just to tell you that the NGX, of course, is back and is back on a winning trend. Yesterday closed up 0.25% at 103,180.73 there, and the equity is now at 62.899 trillion. Hopefully we'll get to 63 today. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But it's a positive market. We're opening with the Ghana Stock Exchange beat us last year, but we will not take it in 2025. So we're going to start the year glowing until the end of it. So I'll be back at 1 p.m. for Business Incorporated. We'll be here with the intraday numbers. We'll have 55 minutes to do business together, so join me then. But now let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.
Welcome back. I think we put up the wrong picture. He screamed ready, so I said, that's not me. It's not him. Joining us right now, we have to talk about this. This is something we heard the president say in his New Year message. He was talking to us about, what the plans are for 2025. And And one of the things that he mentioned was the launch of a values charter. Now, this values charter has been a part of conversations from the National Orientation Agency for almost 2 years now. Some kind of charter that defines who we are as a people, what we stand for, what we don't do, what we do, who we associate with, what our plans and goals are as a people. Just an attempt at creating a nation, because many people believe that we are a geographical construct, we're a country, but as a nation, do we have an identity? This values charter, at least I've heard them talk about it for quite a while, but to expand on this values charter, we have with us the Director of Special Duties and State Operations of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. David Akoji. Thank you so much for being with us on the program.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Nice to be here.
Nice to meet you as well. So let's talk about it. It's been spearheaded, the National Values Charter, spearheaded by the National Orientation Agency. What is it? Is it a document? Is it a recording? What is it?
Actually, what the president spoke about under the section of his New Year's speech that spoke to citizenship was that he would be unveiling the National Identity Project. The National Values Charter is the overarching element among several other elements of the National Identity Project. The National Values Charter is a framework for reorientation, for national reorientation. It's different from some of the things we have done in the past. I'm sure, Kayla, you've heard about Do the Right Thing, Transform Nigeria.
Yes.
You've heard about Change Begins with me. You heard about Nigeria, great people, great
nation,
nation and all of that. In the context of the new leadership at the National Orientation Agency, we realized that a lot of these previous campaigns did not quite catch on and were not sustained beyond the lifespan of the governments that promoted them. And so we investigated why. And we found out that there are like 3 reasons why this happened. One of those reasons is the fact that all of these reorientation propositions put the burden on the citizens. And so citizens begins with me. Yes. So citizens,
great people, great nation.
Yes.
It's us.
I'm telling you. So people kept asking us, what about the leaders? Why are they not coming to this table to also make declaration and commitments? So that's what gave birth to the reciprocal 747 National Values Charter. So in the present context, we're saying that patriotism, and I did hear it spoken about with your earlier guests, cannot be enforced. You cannot legislate patriotism. Patriotism is emotional. It's like love. Love for country. And you cannot force people to love you. You must make yourself lovable. You must bring something to the table that is attractive, So in this context, presently, we're saying that Nigeria, not the government, Nigeria, our country. And it's important to make that distinction because we find that a lot of people tend to confuse the country with the government. Governments are transient, and they hold forth on behalf of citizens over a given and determinable period of time. But our country since 1960, when we gained independence, has been here with us and is going to continue being our country by the grace of God. So we want to make this distinction. And part of the reason why we're making it is when people get very angry with a government part time, they take it out on the country. They begin to disparage the country. They begin to say very terrible things about their country. It's okay to criticize government, but we cannot be criticizing our country.
I mean, this dynamic that you just mentioned right now is actually a subject of conversation right now on social media.
Okay.
And it's because there was an article written by a particular writer, and it was posted by Mr. Bayo Nanuga, that's the spokesperson of the president. And that distinction came up in that write-up. But I said, look, we have to be able to, as a people, understand the difference between government and country.
Yes.
So when you're upset with government, focus your laser. Focus it on government. You may be upset with government officials, you may be upset with the president, you may be upset with people who are running one agency or one ministry or the other. But how to direct your argument where it doesn't move from criticizing this person who's doing wrong to your country to actually now bringing down your country. But that only happens, and this was my thinking when I saw that article, that only happens when we understand who we are as a country.
Absolutely.
What does our country stand for? Who are we?
So that's why you see that the president is passionate about national identity, to the point that he mentioned it in the New Year speech. A National Orientation Agency is leading this effort. We think that majority of us look at ourselves from the prisms of religion, of region, of tribe, you know, and such other identities. And this is because we have not clearly spelt out who we are as Nigerians. If you ask anybody on the street today, what makes you a Nigerian? Who are you as a Nigerian? He probably wouldn't be mentioning character elements.
Let me ask you, who?
So this is the point.
Who are we?
Good, Kayla.
What are we?
So this is
who
the point.
Who are we as Nigerians?
Absolutely, it's extremely important to hold that conversation. And that is what we are doing with the National Values Charter.
What does the Values Charter say we are?
What the Values Charter...
Who does the Values Charter say we are? Who are we?
So the Values Charter defines 7 reciprocal commitments from government and from citizens. The ones from the country. The ones from the country we're calling the Nigeria Promise. You understand? And of those 7 categories, we're talking about democracy. So Nigerians are a country that, and the people that love democracy, and we want to sustain it. So we will work collectively together to ensure that this democracy does not die in our hands, in spite of the challenges that we have. Nigeria is a country that will encourage inclusivity. That is, we will not stand by and watch people marginalized for whatever reason, gender, religion, you know, and place of origin, and things like that. So this is the new vision, and then Nigeria will make that promise. As soon as the president launches this early this year, as promised in his New Year's speech, we will vigorously propagate this so that citizens can hold people in position responsible to these 7 Nigeria promises that I speak to you about. The promises are equity and equality. It includes democracy, like I mentioned, entrepreneurship, it includes peace, it includes inclusivity, freedom, and meritocracy. These are the things that are absent and that make people to not be committed to the country. So we want to say that, okay, Nigeria has made this promise, and you as a citizen should hold every government official, every person in position of authority responsible.
Will it work?
We will continue to push it.
The other ones, did it work? Change begins with me. Sometimes these slogans, they now turn into insults.
So this is the difference, Kayla. This is not a slogan. This that I'm talking to you about, the Federal Executive Council has approved these policies as at last year, you know, and we have a comprehensive strategy to deploy them in such a way that Nigerians can hold their leaders accountable to these promises that our country has made, irrespective of what political party you come from. And that's why it is a Nigeria promise, not a government promise. If it's a government promise, then perhaps some state government that is run by Labour Party or PDP can say, no, we're not the ones that made that promise, it's APC. But this is a Nigeria promise. And as governments transit, you know, one comes and the other goes, these promises will remain the Nigeria promise. And we'll continue to hold our leaders responsible.
I want to bring in Ayo here.
Yeah.
Ayo.
Kayla, you know, I'm looking at the national pledge, and I'm wondering whether it is, whether it's anything significant or not. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend her unity, and uphold her honor and glory. So help me God. That was the only value I knew growing up. And you don't escape it in school, and you can't escape it when you tune on your television at 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. Those are the things that some of us grew up knowing. But today, these things they're not in our faces anymore. Even the national anthem, you had to listen to it before you watched TV. First of all, those color bars. I'm sure you will remember those color bars. And then you would listen to the national anthem, you listen to the pledge before the station identification, came on. Now we have 24-hour TV, and it would seem like those elements are gone, and consequently, I don't know how many people remember them, to the point that even some at the point of swearing in, getting ministers, screening ministers, some of them don't even know some of these things. So how significantly do you think the loss of that culture or the tapering down of that culture has affected our patriotism?
It has to a great extent, because the words of the national pledge alongside the national anthem hold significant value for emotional attachment of a citizen to his country. And you see this playing out in other countries of the world, Ayo. So what we're doing in the present time is, inside of this Federal Executive Council approval that the National Orientation Agency and its parent ministry, the Ministry of Information and National Orientation, have obtained, is there's going to be compulsory orientation for leaders who are elected and those who are appointed. We're taking this also to NYC, to schools, and all of that. What has happened in the past is we didn't find ways to institutionalize these things so that they exist beyond the circumstances of a particular period in time. We've taken care of that now. The citizenship studies, inclusive of these national identity elements that I speak to you about, have already been incorporated into primary school curriculum. This is an effort that we embarked on jointly with the Nigeria Education Research Council, who are responsible for curriculum at that level. We are upscaling this to higher institutions also to ensure that it's included, in what they are taught, especially in the general studies aspect. So we are taking deliberate steps to ensure that it's actually in your face, as you put it, Ayo, in every space, that you go to. We've already started desensitization and orientation on this across the country. We are getting buy-in from traditional rulers, opinion molders, and religious leaders. Shortly before December and inside of all of December, we're all over this country, in every local government, every state, boots on the ground, and then going to marketplaces and motor parks and engaging with citizens, and then upscaling awareness concerning all of this. Okay. The pledge that you speak about and the national anthem are critical elements of the national identity project.
Okay. Well, you said something earlier about the previous efforts laying the responsibility on the citizens. And you also said something very important. You can't legislate patriotism. But then let's look at what the president said in his Independence Day, in a New Year message recently. He said, and I quote, "Citizens' moral rectitude and faith in our country are fundamental to the success of fundamental, he said. In 2025, we will commit to promoting adherence to ethical principles, shared values, and beliefs under the National Identity Project." It will seem like even the president made that also clear right there, that citizens have a responsibility, a big role to play in this, and it will seem like it's a take it or leave it kind of situation for the citizen.
Well, it's not necessarily take it or leave it. We will do our part to ensure that citizens are aware of the Nigeria promise. And there are 7 of them, like I just read out, so that if you walk into an office, for instance, a government office, and you find that that environment is not exhibiting 1 or 2 or 3 of those Nigeria promises, you can actually take it up, with them right there and say, Nigeria has promised me, for instance, inclusivity. And now I see you trying to exclude me from what is going on because I am of X religion or X culture or X political belief or what of that. And then you take it up. And you can actually call these people out and then speak. We didn't have this before. In this country, we have never had an opportunity where Nigeria as a country made a promise to its citizens. But this is happening in other countries. It's akin to the American dream. A child in school born and going to school is taught these things. And he's aware of what commitments the United States of America owes to him. And he lays claim to that.
Just one moment. When you say that, you know, Nigeria has never made a promise to its citizens, I'm a bit lost. Because, first of all, I think it's in the one of the national anthems says, even all of our national anthems make promises, right? And and every presidential candidate that came on made promises. So, who is Nigeria?
So this is the point I'm making, Ayo. Nigeria is our country. You and I are Nigeria. Those who are in office today may not be there tomorrow. It might be you, Ayo, or it might be myself sitting here, you know? So if Nigeria makes promises, then you and I have a responsibility to hold those people that are in position, who deliver one kind of service to the citizens of this country or the other, to hold them responsible to the promises that Nigeria as a country has made.
I think we'll need a legislation for that one. I think we'll need a legislation for that one. But, you know, here is the question that I'm asking, because
yes.
Now, you know, over the years, and this is why you have quite a lot of work to do, because on the one hand, people have no trust. In fact, our trust bank account is zero. Mm-hmm. And one of our guests said over the weekend that, look, you just talked about a promise now, said when you keep a promise, you deposit in that emotional or patriotism account. When you don't keep a promise, you deplete, you withdraw from that account. It would seem like what we have done so far is to withdraw to the point that government is now in deficit of trust with the people. So coming up with a national values charter, how is that going to change that paradigm?
Let me speak to the issue of trust, Ayo. I think it's important that you raised it. You see, when we start a conversation on citizens' trust in government, we narrow the conversation space. How much trust do we have for each other, you and I, Ayo? So we have a national problem of trust deficit. And this is not just about government. Here in Nigeria, yes, we manage it, we hold conversations and all of that. I'm sure you saw sometime last year when the president of France was slapped by a citizen. We have never had such an occasion here in Nigeria where trust deficits leads to physical attacks, you know, on a president. You know, we have seen it happen to legislators in their communities where stones were thrown at some and all of that. But you see, we need to work all-encompassingly on the challenge of trust deficit in our country. Trust in itself is an attraction for investment. If, for instance, a big business conglomerate decides to set up business in Nigeria and they are sure that our citizens will not go there and steal from them, and they tell these stories to their counterparts in other parts of the world, Nigeria becomes attractive for investment. I do not say this to discount the challenge of citizens' trust in government. It's something that we are concerned about at a National Orientation Agency too, and we have evolved strategies also to address that issue. Government officials shouldn't be promising so much and delivering so little. This is one of the drivers of trust deficit. We see the kind of promises that politicians make during campaigns. And then they come up to deny when they win elections and they come into office.
Pretend they didn't
pretend that they didn't say those things. You know, that's one of the drivers of trust deficit. So government officials should promise what they are sure that they can deliver on, even when it doesn't seem so palatable. Let the truth be told. I want to be able to talk about something before we go. And I know you're taking this to schools. Yes, we're taking it.
There's a campus debate.
Absolutely.
Coming up as a capacity conference.
Yes.
That's going to be happening in schools across the country.
We have done a first phase of it.
Okay. What was it about? What happened in these schools?
So
and is it private schools or government schools?
No, it's all schools.
All schools.
Yes.
Okay.
So we held regional debates and capacity building on the 7 for 7. which is the value reorientation platform we're driving going forward. And we had the finals in Lagos, and it was grand. The finals involved winners from each geopolitical zone. So there were 6 schools. And what were they talking about? We take a topical issue. For instance, the issue of criticizing constructively. We're encouraging young people to criticize. Don't criticize by disparaging our leaders. Don't criticize by cursing your country. But criticize constructively in a way that puts down alternative solutions. How
was the reception? Did you feel like you had made some impact?
It was awesome. We're looking forward to working with corporate organizations going forward. It was televised live.
Yeah, I know, we carried it here.
Yes, our channels carried it. It was on about 5 television stations live across the country.
But this campus debate, what's it going to be about?
We're going to keep having it every year. And then every year we will choose a topic. It's about encouraging our students on campuses to move away from the mundane, and to become more serious and to focus on government policies, programs, and activities, develop capacity to analyze policies, you understand, and to describe how benefits can be derived from policies, programs, and activities of government.
I mean, it's very interesting. There are lots of things that happen in the first quarter of this year about young people. There's a youth confab, the president said, and then this values charter. I worry, though, about sustainability. I mean, we saw something happen when the president came in. He changed our national anthem. We're still learning it. we're still trying to get a hold of it.
Yes.
But you see, the old national anthem was created by somebody for some reason. And then now he's brought up his. Now you come up with this values charter, the 7 promises. I don't agree with Ayo. I've been listening to the anthems. It's always about Nigerians doing something. I haven't heard Nigeria doing something for me. I'm listening to all of that. But, changing things when you come into power makes me worry about the sustainability of what it is that you're trying to do. These 7 promises to the Nigerian people, this nationhood that we're creating. How do we know that when a new administration or a new DG even of NOA comes in, he won't change it to something else? So James begins from the top, something. Just trying to put his own slang on something.
No. You see, we're not sloganeering this time around.
Yes, but how do you know that this is going to be carried on?
We're embedding it in institutions. There are 7 institutionalization policies that we're putting in place, Kayla. At the level of the nurturing stage of children, have you observed that our children are glued to foreign cartoons that do not teach about our culture, our way of life, and our values? Have you also noticed that since we got the approval from the Federal Executive Council on the nationalization of cartoon contents, at least 60%, that National Orientation Agency have started doing something in that direction? Have you been watching Captain Excellence?
Captain Excellence, yeah.
And the things that he's teaching our children as alternative to Iron Man, Spider-Man, and the rest of them that don't teach anything that's related to our contextual situations as it is. We are institutionalizing these things, embedding them in curriculum, school curriculum, for instance. That's not something any DG or president can wake up overnight and change. So this is what is going to be the difference between what we're doing with the National Values Charter and other campaigns that we have had in previous years and in previous governments. And this time around, it's about Nigeria. It's not about any government in power.
I mean, I want to thank you very much, Mr. David Akoji, for being with us on the program. I know this is a conversation we will have.
Yes.
Thank you so much, David Akoji, Director of Special Duties and State Operations of the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you so much for having us, Kayla.
Well, Ayo, it's Friday, and it's a wrap from us this week. Thank you all for being with us. Have a great weekend. First week of the year. Fantastic. We're moving forward. We'll see you again soon. I am Kayla Megwa. Have a great weekend.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the first Friday of 2025.